Right now, your personality probably feels like who you are. Your preferences, your reactions, your strengths, your insecurities, your ambitions, your story. It all feels natural, obvious, personal. But what if personality is not where the story ends? What if personality is where hiding begins? After Adam and Eve eat from the tree, something changes immediately. Not the garden, not the body, not even God. The first thing that changes is how they experience themselves. Genesis says, "And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons." Genesis 3:7. Most people read that like a small detail about clothing. But the fig leaves are not really about clothing. They are the first self-image in human history. The first attempt to create a version of yourself that feels safe enough to exist. Before this moment, Scripture says, "And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed." Genesis 2:25. That means there is no psychological performance yet. No image to maintain. No inward narrator constantly asking, "How do I look? Am I enough? Do people accept me? Am I important? Am I safe?" Life is simply being lived. But then the serpent speaks. "Ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil." Genesis 3:5. And if you look, something subtle happens. Reality stops being simply experienced and starts being interpreted. And the moment experience becomes interpreted, a center appears. There is now what is being experienced and the one who thinks it is experiencing it. Interpretation creates interpreter. And immediately, something appears that did not exist before. Exposure. Genesis again says, "And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked." Genesis 3:7. Nothing external has changed. The body is the same body. The garden is the same garden. Even God is the same God. But now there is someone who feels exposed. Before the fall, there is just nakedness. After the fall, there is now someone who is naked. And that changes everything. Because once identity becomes psychological, vulnerability becomes constant. The body is no longer simply lived. It becomes watched, measured, compared, evaluated. The self now experiences life the way someone checks a mirror all day long, constantly adjusting their hat, constantly managing their face, constantly asking, "How am I being seen?" And this is why the fig leaves appear immediately. Because the fig leaves are the first mask, the first attempt to cover the feeling of exposure. And honestly, most human behavior still works the same way. One person becomes successful because achievement makes them feel valuable. Another person becomes agreeable because approval feels safe. I may become funny because humor gets love for me. You become invisible because attention feels dangerous. Someone else becomes spiritual because spirituality hides insecurity. The fig leaves just keep evolving. They become personality. And eventually, the performance becomes so practiced, it no longer feels like a performance. It feels like you. That is why maintaining identity becomes exhausting. Because the mask constantly needs reinforcement. Have you ever noticed when you get a compliment, that can lift your whole day? But if you're criticized just once, that can completely destabilize you. Why? Because the separate self survives through reflection. Like a fire constantly needing more wood. It needs mirrors everywhere around it, confirming it is real. And this is why shame feels so devastating. Shame is not just emotional pain. Shame is the sudden exposure of the mask. The identity suddenly feels fragile, unstable, threatened. This is also why social media affects people so deeply. Social media industrializes fig leaves. People construct an image, they send it outward, or like on Facebook or Instagram, and they use that reflection to feel real. Attention becomes psychological oxygen. Visibility starts feeling like existence. And without realizing it, people slowly begin confusing presentation with identity. But Scripture keeps pointing towards something deeper. Christ says, "Take heed that ye do not your alms before men, to be seen of them." Matthew 6:1. To be seen. That is the hidden hunger beneath identity itself. The ego does not only want existence, it wants witnessed existence. It wants someone confirming, you matter, you are valuable, you are real. And this is why even spirituality can become another fig leaf. Someone becomes the awakened one, the righteous one, the healer, the humble one. The self survives by attaching itself even to transcendence. But Christ keeps pointing toward another way of being. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not. Matthew 6:28. Imagine a flower trying to become a better flower. It sounds like utter horseshit. And yet human beings spend their entire lives trying to become someone. Trying to complete an identity that never stops feeling incomplete. That is why awakening is not self-improvement. It is self-transparency. Not building a better mask, seeing through the need for the mask itself. And this is why silence feels uncomfortable for so many people. Because when distraction stops, the narrator gets louder. This is who I am. This is what people think of me. This is what I still need to become. The voice keeps rebuilding the self over and over again. And many people discover in stillness not peace, but panic. Because stillness interrupts identity maintenance. It exposes how much effort goes into continuously becoming someone. But something strange begins happening when this whole process is observed directly. The identity starts feeling less solid. Not because personality disappears. The body continues. Thoughts continue. Human life continues. But the fig leaves stop feeling absolute. And that is the beginning of freedom. Not freedom for the ego. Freedom from the exhausting need to constantly become one. So maybe the deeper question is not, what identity should I create? Maybe the deeper question is, who would you be without the performance? And before the mind answers, look.